All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Happy Hump Day to each and every last one of you out there watching out in Facebook land and YouTube land. Thank you all for joining us here this afternoon. I always say afternoon, evening, whichever one you would like to say, but good welcome. We are joined here this afternoon with our professionals. Miss Diana S. Rice, she's a mental health professional. She's joining us here. Deerfield Beach High alumni. Go Bucks. Welcome, Diana S. Rice. And we're also joined by our professional, Dr. LaNette Burgess, Ph.D., and she is a psychotherapist. She is joining us here to assist us here if we need some assistance from her. And our panelists, Miss Robin Lilly, her son Tyler Jamar Pearson Sr. was murdered in Delray Beach, Florida on 10/24/19. We're also joined by Miss Brittany Buckner. Her daughter Destiny Buckner was a victim of gun violence in Fort Lauderdale on July the 4th, 2023. Erica Saunders. Her son Johnny Bo Williams passed away on 2/28/24. And lastly, Mr. Christopher Oates Sr. His son, Mr. Christopher Oates Jr., Little Chris, everybody called him, was hit by gun violence, random bullet while he was on vacation in New Orleans on 6/22/24. And we'd like to welcome each and every last one of our professionals, and we'd like to welcome our guests here to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Welcome, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And first, I'd like to say, too, on my behalf, condolences to all the parents on our panel right now. Condolences to you.
I forgot to even mention myself. I'm also a grieving parent. I lost my daughter, Brittany LaNette Adams, on March the 21st of 2021. She had heart failure. So I've been grieving. We're all grieving here, and we have the professionals here to assist us here today. So I gave you a brief introduction of everyone. So why don't we just start off with our professionals? Just tell us a little bit about what you do, Dr. Diana S. Rice, and then we'll go to Dr. LaNette Burgess.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I am so sorry for your loss. When they invited me here, I had no idea. I had an idea, but not that it's been this recent. And yeah, you're in it as we're speaking. I'm Diana S. Rice. I have a private practice called Through the Valley Therapy. And I also host a podcast called the Holistic Counselor Podcast. And I do consulting and coaching work as well through Transform Mind Consulting and Coaching. I have also a certified integrative mental health professional where I studied for about 30 hours to learn how the mind, body, spirit come together, because sometimes we forget in the psychological world. Wow. So anyway, that's who I am. And you could look up my website and everything if you would like to know more about me. Let me just talk a little too how I have experience in this field. Even though I'm not a grief therapist at the moment, most of my career was in alternative public high schools in Broward County. So I worked throughout Broward County in alternative high schools.
Okay. Thank you, Diana Rice.
Thank you.
And Dr. LaNette Burgess.
Hi, yes, good evening. Condolences as well. I also have a private practice. I do virtual counseling in Florida, New York, Texas, and New Hampshire. My practice is called Embrace Therapy and Faith. And the reason that it's named that is because I primarily do integrative therapy, which is clinical therapy, psychotherapy, but also biblical counseling. So I integrate faith and psychotherapy. I also support students in Broward County School District in their mental health department. I've worked with school districts for over 20 years, mostly in New York, where I'm from, and now here in the beautiful sunny state of Florida.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Burgess. Thank you very much. And Robin Lilly, we're going to start with you. Just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what happened to your son, and then we'll start with you on first.
Okay, can you hear me pretty good?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. So my name is Robin Lilly. I am from Deerfield Beach. My son Tyler was living in Delray. He was having a lot of problems with the girl he was dating. He has his last 2 kids from. I tell people every day, doesn't matter how the incident happened. It wasn't drug related. It wasn't gang related. None of that. I say domestic because we know he and his girlfriend at the time were having a lot of problems, and she involved a lot of her family. And I know it's like not what you know, but what you can prove. But we know that she had ultimately she conveniently wasn't home this particular weekend and had given her brother a key to her apartment. And we know that Tyler was there by himself. We know that the person entered the house, the apartment, with a key because it was no forced entry. And Tyler was there, and he was shot multiple times right at the door. He probably heard, we think he probably heard somebody coming in, and he went to the door. So as soon as they opened the door, he shot him. He was shot multiple times and closed back up and locked back in the apartment. We know that, let me just say, I really admire Wayne and Daryl. Y'all, I do, because a lot of stuff because I'm in Gainesville. So a lot of stuff that I didn't have access to, I couldn't get a hold to because of the calls and you guys' interaction. What got me a lot of the information stuff that I didn't have that I didn't have. We know that a call was made around 9:01, 9:04 from the neighbor next door stating that they heard gunshots in the area. Derry police supposedly went out to the area, canvassed the area, and then they left. It was nothing said on the call at that time that they heard gunshots next door at the loud people next door. 3 days later, I guess because of the smell, he was there for 3 whole days. I think, Wayne, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the maintenance guy or somebody caught the smell, and then they alerted the police, and they ultimately let them in, and Tyler was found on the floor deceased. So then I was told later, like I said, I attribute a lot of this to you guys, that the brother went down to the station and told the lieutenant, he's actually the chief of police in Delray now. He was right. Lieutenant Daryl Hunter at that time, said that her brother walked in and said, "Oh, I didn't have anything to do with shooting that boy." And my questions were, why would he even come down there to tell y'all that? I was also told that the video was blurry. The neighbor that made the call went down to say she recognized the boy from somebody who was always at the house, to coming back to saying she don't remember. So it's just a lot. Now he is in jail right now, but for something similar to Tyler's murder, a home invasion, which he's due to get out next year, and I'm trying to stop. But it's just been hard. Yeah. Because my son had 3 kids, an older son. The son he had from the girl who he was with just passed away. He was born with some difficulties. He just passed away November 1st last year. So on top of that, and then dealing with his death, it's a lot to not have justice at all.
Yeah, and we see you grieving all the time, and we definitely wanted you to come on here, and we see that the posts and the pictures that you post, and everybody on here. I do it myself. I see Erica and Chris and Brittany. You all come on and you really grieving the loss of your child, and we have to do something about it. There's other people out here grieving around the country, so this is why we wanted to shed some light on this much needed podcast that we're
Much needed conversation.
Right. So next, let's go over to Brittany Buckner. Her daughter Destiny Buckner was murdered by gunfire on July the 4th, 2023. Brittany, tell us about Destiny and what type of person was Destiny. Just tell her. I mean, you were here before, but for those that weren't, just tell us about Destiny.
I'm sorry. Good
Yeah,
evening, everyone.
we can hear you.
For those who don't know, or may know, I'm Destiny's mom. I lost my daughter 2 years ago, July 4th. And the story of Destiny was she graduated high school, overcame the battle of lupus, which she was on her deathbed then when we found out her senior year. And all she wanted to do was graduate high school and go to prom, which we completed. She ended up becoming manager at her local KFC and just kind of getting back into her groove because lupus almost really took her out. She had the most severe case where her body was shutting down and we didn't know why. So we managed to overcome that. And she said, Mom, all I want to do is graduate high school, go to prom, and become a Black firefighter woman. And unfortunately, she couldn't because of the severity. She was on medication of a 60-year-old, 70-year-old person. That's how bad it came out the hospital. She had to learn how to manage all of this. And her world changed even from that, from what food she can eat, what she could not, the different medications. It took a toll on her body being that young. And so we used to have arguments all the time because her determination was becoming a Black firefighter woman so she can help other people. And I was like, well, baby, you can barely breathe. And how are you going to pass the agility test? So those were our last mom and daughter get intos. And she always said, I'm going to figure it out. Don't worry about it. I'll call you back. And she was a very loving girl, honor roll student. She if she wanted to step out, it was more so, learning to be that young adult, going out with her girlfriends, going out and experimenting with new hairstyles, the typical young lady, of being a young adult. And I remember talking to her July 4th and texting her earlier that day. She was like, Mom, I'm just getting up, tired. And I said, okay, well, to let you and your brothers know because they were with family. I said, I love you guys. And remember, don't forget to pray. Please be safe, July 4th. And that was around 12 o'clock that afternoon. That was the last text I got from my. I got a phone call around 7 evening that night. And it was a hysterical phone call. A family member, you need to come to the hospital. Destiny's been shot. And I was so confused because how my daughter, what happened in order for her to get shot and involved in something. And so, of course, this is evening. Fireworks are going off. I'm trying to call my family members. Everyone's confused because it's like, how is this Destiny? Destiny does not get in trouble. And so, long story short, she was with a family member riding down the street that apparently that night I found out from the detective, they were not supposed to be down that street. And just because she was a family member and it was some other things, she got crossed up at the wrong place, wrong time. And I'll never forget that night when the doctors came out. And I'm in a medical field, so blood and all that stuff does not scare me. And it didn't click that the doctors were taking to come out and tell me. And when they did, they said, I'm sorry, there's nothing else that we can do. My world changed. And she was my firstborn, my only daughter. She was 19. And our birthdays are 3 days apart. So between April and July, about the last 2 years, those are like the hardest months.
Has there been any movement on your case, your daughter's case? Because we had Sheriff Dr. Gregory Tony on our podcast here, and we did ask him about your daughter's case, and he did promise us that they were working on it, and they didn't have any new leads. Have you heard any updates? You gotten any updates from the Broward County Sheriff's Office here in the last 6 months or so?
No, I've been in contact with the detective, and he's just been said they've been working on it. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any new leads. Yeah, we'll talk. That's the sad part about it. You would think that, they would see the story and it was an innocent bystander, a young lady, and with people being out there on the street that night, and everyone was partying, doing their thing. And you would think that someone would step up and speak what's right, but no, unfortunately, nothing said yet.
Well, we're gonna come back to the open cases here towards the end. We're gonna move on to Erica Saunders. Erica lost her son Johnny Bo Williams on February 28th, 2024. Erica, tell us what happened to Johnny Bo Williams, your son.
Hi, everybody. My condolences to you ladies. It's really hard losing a child. What happened with my son is hard for me to talk about, by the way. My son was fighting. He was battling kidney failure, and he was trying to get a kidney. I went and tried to see if I was a match. I wasn't a match, and he had a friend that was willing to give him a kidney. They did all the tests, and he was a match. And throughout the process of him waiting, we got a phone call from the hospital, saying that, they had a kidney for him, and we can come on down, and so that they can get him prepped and get him, go ahead and give him his kidney. I got to the hospital so fast at Northwest Regional. We were living out in Parkland, so I was really driving fast and excited and thanking God that, my son is going to be okay. We get to the hospital, and the doctor looked at him and said, "I'm sorry, but your blood isn't a match." When they told us before I left the house, everything, they have to verify and make sure that everything is a match. And then they basically just turned him around, and I'm sorry.
Take your time.
And you have nothing to be sorry about.
Mhm.
This is part of the process.
Yeah.
So we left the hospital. That was in November. On February 28th, 1:38 in the morning, I wasn't there. He called and he said, "Mom, I can't breathe." And I knew something was wrong because he called that time of morning, because I was staying out there with him, but I left. And I said, "Did you call the paramedics?" And he said, "No." So I immediately told my friend to call the paramedics while I talked to him. And I told him I love him. He and I had some differences, and you know how kids, when they're sick, they lash out at the person they love the most.
Mm-hmm.
And, and he had been like really going through a lot, and he was mean to me. And I know he didn't mean it. So I was basically telling him I love him and I forgive him for everything. And if I did anything to him, to forgive me. And And I was asking him, how would they get in the house, the paramedics? Because I know the house was so big and he's upstairs, you know. And he told me that the garage, just get the garage remote from the truck, and they could press it and come in through there. And they came in, and I'm talking to him, telling him to just breathe, and just really trying to make sure that he's okay. And the paramedics grabbed the phone. I said, "Oh, they're there, they're there." And I talked to them, and they were like, "Oh, we're trying to work on him, and we're doing our job." They were just basically verifying that, what they were doing. And I told them I'm on my way. I was en route, and I could hear them whispering, and they didn't hang up the phone. They stayed on the phone, but I couldn't hear him. I could just hear them like whispering. And then I just heard a loud like yell, like, "Oh," you know. So he basically had a massive heart attack, due to complications with the doctor said that he was basically drowning from his fluids inside, because he would go to the hospital and they would like take some of the fluid off of his chest and out of, from his lungs and his heart area. They would like take out liters of fluid. And he told me one day, he said, "Mom, I'm just tired of dialysis." He had been on dialysis for like 4 to 5 years. Never in a million years would I have thought my child was going to die, I thought we would find the kidney and he would be fine. But each time we went to the hospital, they would say his blood pressure was like in the 400s. I've never heard of that. That's like unheard of.
Oh,
Really, he was really, really strong, and he was a big guy. Those of you that knew him knew he was a football player. He had his doctorate degree. He was very big in the community. He helped a lot of people. He was a broker. He helped people buy homes. When he passed away, it's like I got so many phone calls of people saying, "Oh my God, I was in the middle of purchasing my home and he was helping me, and what will I do now?" And he really did a lot for people, and he was loved by so many. He has one son here he left behind, and we really miss him. We haven't seen him since the funeral,
Right.
but it's been really hard, but we just keep pressing on.
And our condolences
Yes.
definitely goes out to him. And it's just heartbreaking to hear. My eyes are starting to get teared up already. Just hearing that story reminds me of my own, which I'll tell at the end. But let's go over to Christopher Oates Sr. His son, Christopher Oates, Little Chris, everybody called him Little Chris,
Yeah.
Jr., was hit by gunfire and while he was on vacation with his family in New Orleans on June the 22nd of 2024. So, Chris Oates Sr., tell us about Little Chris and how it happened.
First of all, I'm so sorry for young lady's loss.
Thank you.
It's still fresh. I'll never forget that phone call. Seconds.
Take your time, Chris. Yep.
Oh boy.
He was off up in New Orleans vacation, and he went up to show his sisters around because they wanted to go to New Orleans and he didn't want them to go by themselves. Him and my baby boy was supposed to be there together, and my baby boy, someone came up and he couldn't make it, but Chris went anyway, and he went ahead before the girls got there. He went ahead of them, and he was waiting on them to come in. I was supposed to go to work that Saturday morning, and I overslept, and I got the phone rung, and it woke me up, and I told my wife, I said, I don't know the number, so I ain't gonna answer it. And so I got up and proceeded to say my prayer, and after I got through with my prayer, the phone rang again, and the same number. I still didn't answer. I was like, I don't know who this is. So I went in, started to wash up, brush my teeth and face, and the phone rang again. Same number. So I said, well, I'm going to answer this time. And it was a doctor from the hospital. And he said you was the next of kin on his driver's license, and that their son was shot. And he was shot in the head. And we did everything we could, but we couldn't save him. And my phone is so loud. My wife heard the doctor, and she just fell out. And I couldn't believe it. And but what happened was he had met up with his sisters that day, earlier that day when they got there, and they hung out for a little bit. And apparently they left some stuff in his hotel room, and they stayed in a different hotel. And they went to his hotel to grab their things, and when they grabbed their things, he walked them back down to their car so they can go to the hotel, make sure they get to the car safe. And once they left, he went back upstairs to his room, and the video showed him going back up to the room, and then he came back down for some reason. He came back down, which he's a night owl because he works night shifts, so he's normally up late at night anyway and sleep in the daytime because he works late at night. And the video showed that he was standing at the curb talking on the phone, texting somebody, and then the gunfire started, and it was two people on the left of him and one person on the right of him, and he was in the middle, and he the one caught the bullet. He was in the middle. The person was shooting from down the street, and the bullet caught him on the side of the temple, and he was just standing there texting somebody, and I still can't figure out to this day who he was texting because his phone and his clothes, his jewelry, all this stuff is still held as evidence until the case is solved. And it just been so crazy because I can't put an end to none of it because of this trial
Mm-hmm.
in New Orleans, and I can't get no closure because they keep pushing the trial back and playing games, and it just I can't really get no closure to it. But just to know that he was up there on vacation trying to look after his sisters, and I just thank God, no, the other baby boy wasn't there to witness all that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Now, Chris, you and I, we talked off. Unlike Robin's case and Brittany's case, they know who murdered your son. Could you tell the panelists what you told me? The hurtful part is that this young lady is out on bail.
Yeah, she's the district attorney. Um, uh, had her switch to one of his colleagues that he worked with prior to her courtroom, so he can maneuver the way he wanted to maneuver and get her out on bond. When all this stuff is on video, everything is on video showing everything she did, all the cover up they tried to do, and everything is clear right on the video, showing that he was an innocent bystander. She is reckless, and they figured a way to get her out, and now they playing games to keep her out because they know if it goes to trial that everything is cut and clear and shows that she's innocent. I mean, guilty of what she did. And so they keep playing games of pushing the date back and found a reason. Now she's trying to play like she tried to kill herself. Now she's playing like she's crazy. And now they're saying she's not competent enough to stand trial, and and now I got to play these games with them because she's not competent enough to stand trial. And the thing that really kills me the most and hurts me the most, excuse me, is it's tearing my mother up inside out. That was my mother's first grandchild.
We're gonna definitely send our prayers out to your mom. We know we know your mom, and beautiful lady, and definitely gonna send our prayers out to her, man. I know it has to be tough on her because they were close, and as far as my daughter goes. Oh, well, were you finished, Chris? I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay. All right, and like as far as my daughter goes, what happened to my daughter, Brittany? Her name was Brittany as well. She had went into the doctor just for a random yearly physical right around the age of 18 years old, and she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure at 18. Mind you, we didn't have any history of that in our family on the mother side or the father side. And over the years, it grew worse. She started having complications, couldn't breathe. Her body was retaining fluids, and she had to go on dialysis just to get the fluid out of her body. Her legs would swell up. She couldn't work. She worked all of her life. She started out working at Popeyes in Deerfield Beach, the Taco Bell, the Publix, and she worked until she couldn't work anymore. And her heart got so bad that they had to put a defibrillator in her heart. It was just that bad. It could stop at any time. So they put a defibrillator in, and when they started to test the defibrillator, she went into cardiac arrest immediately, and they were able to save her, and she survived that. But 1 year later, I got a call. I just gotten to work around 7 a.m. and I just punched in, and right around 7:01, I got a call from her mother, and she was hysterical on the phone, and I could hear my granddaughter crying in the background, just boo-hoo crying, She had found her deceased in the bathtub, and she passed away of the congestive heart failure. So, and left her grandmother and I 5 grandchildren that we're now raising, and they're all doing very well, getting good grades in school. But I too, just like the rest of the panelists here on the panel here, I've been grieving just like everybody else. And it's tough, you look at the pictures, and I look at my daughter, my granddaughter, and I could see their mother just like I'm looking at her mother, especially the second oldest, looks just like her mother, Sanaya. And just this morning, I took her to get her very first Florida identification card, and she was happy about that. And I looked up at her, and she was looking just like her mother, and I had a tear run down my face there, because she reminds me so much of her mother. But again, I'm a grieving parent. I too have been talking to I use the employee assistance program at my job. I utilize that. It's free. So I don't know if I know, Chris, you may have it, and hopefully some of the others may have it as well on your job. But if you do have it, utilize it. It's there for you. And that's what happened to my daughter, and which is why I wanted Diana S. Rice and Dr. LaNette Burgess to come on here and offer some of their expertise. And if they have any advice, I know you are. I trust your advice, and I'm sure everybody else on this panel would trust your advice. So, Diana, let's start with you. What kind of advice can you offer us grieving parents and the grieving parents that's out there in Facebook and YouTube land that's watching right now, that just don't know how to deal with the loss of burying a child? Help us.
There. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Wow. Listening to each one of your story of Tyler, Destiny, Johnny, was it Johnny Bo, did you say?
Yes, Johnny.
Christopher Jr. and Brittany. That right there, saying their names, right, is so important. Because sometimes grief becomes very complicated it's complicated grief is grief gets stuck in your system. And it's to have the understanding and naming the emotions that are happening. The thing I do, it's like I don't give advice because, as therapists, we have to say we don't give advice because every case is unique, just like our thumbprints. And so to have that understanding, though, I do a lot of psychoeducational training, kind of like understanding the stages of grief, because it is not a straight line. It is not just going from denial to anger to bargaining to depression to acceptance, right? And then to some kind of meaning. It comes and goes, and grief is actually love with nowhere to go. And so for you, like each one of you, I want to understand, how is it that you are here with me at this moment? Because right there, that is healing every day, even though it's a heavy weight. You coming together like this, there's something called Grief Share. Have you guys heard of Grief Share?
No.
I haven't.
So this is something that I've sent quite a few people to do because it's all over the country. And it is how we're doing right now, sharing, right? So you're not alone. I'm a woman of faith, and we're supposed to mourn together and rejoice together. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to keep it together because I'm a therapist and I'm supposed to be strong. But honestly, it's not about being strong. It is about processing and working through all the emotions because God gave us all these emotions. So, you know what, Daryl, like I did create a little PDF that I was telling you about, but it's really understanding those stages and then understanding where we come from, because I also know it's layered in the Black and brown communities, right? It's a layered processing too, because you're talking about gun violence. You're talking about situations that many, many people don't have an understanding about. And so I don't know where each of you are at this moment, but this is fresh. Like what you're talking about 2024, 2025. And then for Daryl, the complicated grief, that's okay. You processing and moving and talking about it, because other people might get uncomfortable, but that's their problem. You have to sit with it and go, okay, what do I do with it now? And take care of yourselves. And some people don't know how to do that, because what happens is something happens, we disassociate, our bodies and brain is trying to protect us. It goes into the subconscious so we can function and pay bills and move on. And if you have responsibilities of other humans around you, right? But it is doing what we're doing right now. The ones with not having justice at the moment, that's something to process separate, because grief, you could be grieving numerous things at one time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, I could keep going and going. So I want to give Dr. Burgess some time too, because, our experiences are different working with the communities we work with.
Yeah, no, I think that you hit a lot of important things. I'm just profoundly just touched by everyone's story, and thank you for sharing and having the courage of sharing. I heard a lot of traumatic experiences, a lot of trauma, but I also hear a lot of resiliency in all of the parents, the moms and the dads. And as Diana said, it's all complicated because there's so many different layers to it when we're talking about gun violence, when we're talking about medical grief. There's just so many different layers. You now raising your grandchildren, not having answers about what exactly happened. I heard with Tyler's mom, she right away started off with the stigma of gun violence. Like, her son was not involved in anything. And that's a big thing. People, as soon as they hear gun violence, they think, oh, well, there must have been something going on. And so dealing with that, when we're looking and we're supporting people with in their grief and in their grieving process, it's not treatment. It's not about treatment. It is about support. Because when we're looking at grief and grieving, we're looking at a lifetime. There is no period. I know Diana referenced stages. Those stages actually were from death and dying. And so I think sometimes people get caught up in thinking that trying to see where they are in those stages, and there really are no stages. You can feel so many more emotions than those 5 things, right? And on any given day, you could be thinking, I'm feeling a lot better. Like the intensity is not there. And then out of nowhere one day, boom, the ocean just comes and knocks you down. And that is all so normal. It's a process, it's a journey. And what we're looking at really when we're supporting you is the intensity and the duration, right? So as I said, we say that grieving can take a lifetime, but we don't want it to consume your life. So that's what we're really trying to help you so that it doesn't consume your life. And that's the support that clinicians will give. It's no treatment for grief because your heart is broken and it may remain broken, but how are you able to push through with resiliency? A lot of times, and as Diana spoke about in our community, we do a lot of spiritual bypassing and a lot of things that are not helpful, like, saying things that are not helpful. And so I think the main thing that we try and do is listen, as Diana said, hear where you're at in that moment, hear what you need in that moment, and helping people identify what they need and helping people articulate what they need, especially men, because men tend to conceal. And men tend to not be able to articulate what they're feeling. And so, and even Black and brown moms, we're kind of conditioned and taught to just push through and be strong. And that's not helpful. That's suppressing, and that's concealing how you feel. And so from the clinical aspect, we want people to be able to identify exactly what they're feeling, when they're feeling it, and then how to cope with those big, strong emotions in those moments. Particularly with gun violence, that has, not that other grief doesn't, but sometimes with gun violence, there's a lot of trickle effect. There's a lot of hypervigilance. And so how do you deal with those things like Diana talked about that you're feeling in your body, the anxiety, the depression, the hypervigilance, looking at how we can help people cope with that and identifying that and not suppressing it to the point where it's there, but you're not really acknowledging it, because that's when it gets really unhealthy.
Right. Yeah. Well said, Dr.
Definitely.
Burgess. And I had to write that quote down. You said grieving can take a lifetime, but don't let it consume your life. I absolutely love that. And I'm going to always remember that, it could, because there is no expiration date on grieving.
There's none.
Not for me. And I know each and every last one of these panelists here personally, with the exception of Brittany, but I've met her. I feel like I know her. She's a friend of mine forever now. And Chris is a man just like me, and we both cry. And I don't care who sees me crying. I don't care if I miss my daughter, I'm going to cry.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to hold it in. I don't care where I'm at, and they could, whoever could say whatever they want. I don't care.
Daryl, some people though, like this is the situation that I've seen working with some of the families I worked with grieving, like after the Parkland shooting, and also the gun violence from working in alternative schools where people were seeing their cousins and everything getting shot. Right. It is understanding that like some people get frozen. I mean, that's why I was like, when you understand different stages and situations, doesn't mean it will never end. It will. It is naming it, because once you name it and acknowledge it, some people are so scared that if they even touch it, that they're going to drown. And that is why it's so important to, even when you don't feel like coming out of bed, even if you don't feel like doing the grief work. I hate to call it that way, but it is, because guess what? 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now, The legacy is the story of naming your child, right? And their children, and that's how we keep them alive, is like talking about them. And so, sometimes like there's thoughts that come to people's heads and they just don't know what to say. They feel they're alone. Like, it's my fault. I'll never be okay. I'm always angry. People don't understand me. If I stop hurting, I'll forget them. I shouldn't cry. There's no hope for my community. The list goes on and on, but there's ways. This is where I want people to understand that therapy has shifted and changed, where now you have people that understand our community more. And they're out there. They're out there. It's not a weakness to find or seek help. Some people don't know where to go, right? And this is why I'm going to leave some resources, because there is, like I asked, do you know what Grief Share is, right? This is a space where people go to together at churches, and they watch a video, and then they sit around and they have a discussion about the situations. And sometimes somebody will go and not say a word. They leave angry and they're like cussing up a storm, and they're like, that's not for me, because that's where you are at the moment, and it's okay. Another person comes in and they're telling everything, and they've already moved to a stage where they're like, oh, I'm making meaning out of this. I'm doing a poetry read or whatever, you see? And it is coming together, because grief wants to isolate you and make you feel like there is no hope ever again. And the anger could consume you to a place where now that's where you are. And I want you to know that anger is like an iceberg. So you see anger on top, but there's so many things happening underneath. And that is why, to me, the most important is to sit with it, even though it's uncomfortable. That's why having a professional would be the ultimate, because we are trained. Cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Dialectical behavioral therapy, EMDR. That's something that helped a lot of families after the Parkland shooting. So I'm just saying that there's different modalities, and to learn psychoeducational training is the first step, and then naming it, because it is consuming. You're already over and you might be like frozen, but doing this right here, right now, Daryl, what you just set up is really great work at this moment, because now you have process, and now you see all these people and know you're not alone. And now you see two people that are professionals that can say, hey, listen, I know another, like if you want to work with your insurance or whatever, Psychology Today, and you can click on what you exactly need, grief counseling, things like that, because many people just are so exhausted or living in a brain fog, because that's something with PTSD that happens a lot. You just feel like your body is disconnected from your brain, right? And that's somatic therapy, where you learn how to connect again and process things. So there's so many resources out there. And okay, I'll stop talking now.
Did any other parents want to comment so far?
Yeah, I did the counseling, and I think with my situation, I think it hurts me more than it helped me, because there's no closure. I can't even start to heal, because they're not giving me no closure, a closure point to start closure. And when I sit down and talk about it, it enrages me, because of the system. And I know it's not the people, it's the system that's causing more grief. And like the people in New Orleans is the one suggested me to take counseling, and they say, okay, well, we'll reimburse you. Take the counseling, we'll reimburse you so you can get some help. I get the help, I get the counseling, I send in the paperwork, and now they give me all kind of red tape about reimbursing me. Now you piling more stress
Right.
on top of me.
Right.
You know, and I think the counseling hurts me more than it helped me at this point where I'm at.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a time for it, and sometimes you have to know when you're ready for it. And there are times when you can start, and then you need to take a break, and you need to process. And also, you have to make sure it's a good fit, right? Because you can go to one therapist, and if it's not a good fit, then you won't begin your journey. And so, I never, you can go to somebody who, oh, this person is highly recommended, they're a grief specialist. If they're not a good fit for you, then I always tell people, find somebody else. You're not going to hurt the therapist's feelings. It's for you.
Yes.
That's right.
You're paying them for a service. That is the service that we are providing. And see, Christopher, with that rage right now, I would want to know, where are you putting the rage? I want you to feel the rage. I want you to process it and get it out of you, right? Because what happens is we get overwhelmed by whatever emotion, right? I have a whole feelings wheel right here that I utilize with my clients. Okay. I want to know, are you going to take a kickboxing class, right? Or, I know that sounds stupid, but that right there, you sitting in that's hurting all your organs. It's hurting you in a place. And I want you to take it and be like, all right, I'm going to take jujitsu now and just be like, mother, whatever, scream it out, write it out, journal it out. Because what happens is if you keep it in, and this is what I've seen working in alternative high schools, there's a lot of trauma situations and you're keeping it in, keep it subconsciously. It's not you doing it on purpose. And then one little trigger, what do you think road rage is? One little trigger, one song that reminds you of your child. And you didn't realize that. And then boom, all of a sudden so I would love for you to process it in a way where it's okay to feel I'm pissed for you.
Yeah.
Hearing this, right? I mean, hearing this gets me angry. So I would love to know, how are you handling your rage?
Robin, are you?
I think
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I think I've been consuming myself with work. Working 12, 13 hours a day. It eats up most of my day time, all my time. My two grandsons, he had two boys. I think those two motivate me to stay focused and stay on the course for justice. But I think it brings the rage up when I see my mom, because it tearing her up from the inside out. And we all love him. We all love him. All the family members loved him. I mean, but it's nothing like a grandmother's first grandchild. You know, and I'm always trying to take care of my mother, and to see her hurt so bad, and they not give us no justice.
I think your happy space is out there in the woods. Anytime I see you out on the boat fishing, Chris, or out there in the woods hunting, you're always very happy. I'm not a professional. The professionals are here, but that's just me being a friend of yours and seeing you and out on the boat fishing and out there in the woods hunting, whatever you're out there hunting, deer or whatever, turkey. But I think if I could make a recommendation, I see you very happy when you're doing that. So I would recommend you do more of that. Am I right, doctor? So Dr. Rice and Dr.
Absolutely. I
Burgess?
think we always recommend getting outside, whether it's a walk. I mean, walking is always my go-to for people. Get outside and go for a walk, whether it's 20 minutes or an hour. But being outside in nature, in the elements, that's science behind that. That does heal the brain. it does heal grief. So definitely getting outside in nature. And when you're out there, being sure that you're not ruminating, meaning replaying, rethinking about it, but actually using all of your senses to engage. What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you feeling? Whether it's the sun or the breeze, or I'm listening to the ocean, or my adrenaline is getting up because I'm getting ready to hunt, or I'm relaxed because I'm on the ocean fishing. But really trying to engage in all of your senses: sight, hearing, smell, everything while you're out in nature. There's so much science behind how that helps to heal the brain and calm your nervous system. It can reset your nervous system.
Okay. And Robin, let's move on to you. What are you doing
To cope.
kind of cope with your grief and deal with your grief?
Well, for me, I'm a lot like Chris. Like going back to when he said the day of what happened to your son, you overslept that morning. The day when it happened to Tyler, it happened on a Thursday. He was found on that Sunday. I didn't go to church that day because he was so heavy on me. And after it happened, once I went back to work, I was just snapping on people. Like you couldn't really, if you walked by me and the wind just blowed in my face, I was mad. I was snapping on people. And my supervisor at the time, what is it, that employee assistance, whatever they call it, counseling and stuff.
EAP.
EPA.
Yeah, I'm like Chris said,
EAP. I'm sorry.
it didn't help me, because I thought it did more damage because I'm having to talk about it how you want me to talk about it. It was always, well, what do you think about this and what's going on now? And so I stopped. I didn't do it. I get through it now because I'm with Moms Demand Action and a couple other little community groups by talking to other parents who going through like right now the same thing that I'm going through, but I have to just put it's like I hear, and I respect both doctors.
I'm not a doctor, by the way. I just want to make that crystal clear.
Therapist, whatever. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I have to make that crystal clear so I keep my license.
oh yeah, that's right.
I call him Dr. Rice with
But it's like until you can listen to people, like Chris said, you can listen to them all day. And then that part of me is like, okay, I hear you, but this is a void that's never coming. My child is never coming back.
Yes.
You haven't experienced that. Yeah. And I know, they're trained and licensed, but to me it's still, but you haven't been through what I'm going through until it happens to you, then you'll be sitting where I, you know what I'm saying? Like the shoes on the other foot. But I respect it, but for me, like I write. I just like if I got a lot of triggers. Like I think Miss LaNette said, there are some triggers. Like I still can't watch certain shows and shooting up people and somebody laying on the floor. Like I'm thinking about my son laying there for 3 days, thinking somebody's coming to help him. And like the other lady said, you could hear a song that just put you back, on that child or on your loved one. And that's me. That's I deal with it now. I can talk about it more, better than I could before. But then I still have those days. Absolutely. I still have, somebody that could just say one word and. But I do have a good support system. I will say that. If I go speak somewhere, my dad will come down from wherever he is, and he'll be right there for me. I think it's all about having a good support system too. My church family.
Yep.
They can just like Daryl and Wayne to see my posts. Like I'm posting all the time. And they know me. And then like my church family, they'll just hit me up. Sis, everything all right? Are you okay? Just invite me here or, doing certain stuff. But for me, getting through a lot of those days are just writing.
Yeah. And I think that's important, knowing what works for you right? Because like you said, the therapy didn't work, and it sounds like the therapist was utilizing more of a talk therapy that's like a top down. So we're talking. Some people benefit more from what we can call a bottom up approach, which is more talking about how you experience it in your body. But also, some people, therapy is not where they're at right now, and they have to do other things that are making meaning for them. So, whether it's activism, whether it's community, whether it is honoring their loved one, right, in different ways. So, you have to figure out what really brings peace to you, and no one can tell you that that's not the right way if it feels good to you, unless obviously it's something that's, unhealthy. But like journaling, or creating an organization, or like Diana talked about, grief share, where you can jump online to different grief groups, and just listen and listen to other people.
Oh
It's
yeah, I
what
do that. I do that a lot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
what works for you, definitely.
Okay. And
Erica?
Erica, what are you doing to deal with and cope with your grief?
Oof. Well, to be honest, I didn't know what to do. I kind of stayed in bed for almost the whole year,
Mhm.
crying.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say this. I thank God that I answered that phone
Amen.
when my son called, because I believe had I not answered it, I probably would really, really, be messed up, because it was 1:38 in the morning, and I looked at the phone and I'm like, he calling me this time of morning.
Mhm.
I was up. I thank God that I answered that phone call,
Yeah.
because had I missed it, it would be worse, but I took on an assignment a couple of months ago, and I'm an insurance agent, and I'm a property adjuster and a realtor as well, and part-time hairstylist. I'm sorry, y'all. I do a few things, but I took on an assignment to do some work in South Carolina, and I drove, and it was therapeutic. I
Mhm.
heard the therapist say walking in nature and all of that helps, but driving also helps.
Mhm.
It helped me a lot. I mean, when I got in the car to drive, it was so soothing and made me feel like, okay, there is life after
Yeah.
that. There is, I can pick myself up and continue to live, because I wanted to just die,
Mhm.
But I mean, I have three other kids, but that was my first love, my
Right.
first child, and I just didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I still don't. And another thing, like with losing a loved one, you lose friends too. People that you think are your friends, that you're really close to.
Yeah.
You this is a revelation as to what they meant, what you really meant to them, you
Wow.
know. And I lost a few close friends and family that, they know what I go through, and they know what I've been through, but a lot of times they don't understand. So they, like, sometimes we can lash out, like, I forgot her name. She said she was
Robin.
Robin said, you can have a little aggression because you're angry.
Mhm.
You're angry, you lost your child, your emotions are high, and you don't know how to deal with it. So sometimes the closest person to you may get the wrath of the pain and the grief you're going through, but they don't understand it because they haven't dealt with it, they haven't lived it.
Mhm.
So instead of them saying, okay, she's going through something, let me just let her have her moments, they pull away and they do whatever. And I thank God that I did lose them, because they didn't, evidently I didn't mean anything to them. I'm gonna say that,
Yeah.
because God put people in your life for a lifetime and some for a season. And I just thank him. I always pray the prayer of, Lord, if they're not for me, please move them out of my circle.
Yep.
And he always does that for me. And I'm just grateful. I'm very grateful. It's peaceful. I just feel good about that. But when your circle is already small, it hurts. It really hurts, because you really need to have that person there to talk to, to help you through the pain and, and the sorrows that you go through. But Chris, I'm sure you know who I am, right? I want to
You look
say
familiar.
I'm Queen's cousin. I'm
Oh,
Chris, your cousin. Yeah.
oh, okay.
I'm her cousin. I thought maybe I didn't recognize you, so I was trying to see if once he said your name, I knew I saw it on the pamphlet, but I when I saw you, you didn't look familiar. But yeah, your son, as you know, was my cousin, and she
Okay.
was there. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, she was
Okay.
there for me. She was there for me when I lost my son. She was right there. And then a couple of months later, I had to be there for her. So we were bouncing off each other's pain and
Mhm.
trying to be there for one another, And I know it's hard for anyone to lose a child, but when a mother loses a child, I'm speaking as a mother. I don't know about a father, but we carry those babies for those 9 months, and that pain is so horrendous. And we have to just advocate and be there for one another, no matter what the situation is. We have to be there and love on each other, no matter what we go through in the moment. Maybe we may make each other upset, but we have to get over it and be there and love on each other, because that's what I try to do. It's really not easy. It's really not. I know I need counseling, but I did find something that does give me relief, and that's driving over the countryside. I drove for 9 hours. Then I came back. I couldn't stop driving. I drove to Orlando twice back to back, and it was therapeutic. And I'm like, oh, wow, this really, really helps me. So,
Yeah.
that was something when you said that, that was like, wow, that is definitely something good to do as far as nature. I didn't walk, but I'm gonna do that next. That's my next thing. Start back exercising, and I appreciate that. But I am gonna contact you ladies, because I definitely do need the counseling.
Definitely.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
just wanted to add, for a lot of times in the Black and Brown community, the symptoms don't look like traditional symptoms. So a lot of times we feel it in our body. So we'll have medical symptoms like brain fog, like pain, like exhaustion, like headaches. And so if you go into your medical doctor with these things, it's probably associated with the grief. And so the doctor's going to say, oh, I don't see anything wrong. I don't see it's manifesting. It's the grief that's manifesting in your body.
Absolutely. And I do have that brain fog, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Sometimes I can be talking and trying to hold a complete sentence, and it just goes away, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And then you just clarified what it was. So
Yeah.
it makes
Right.
sense.
That's why I think it's very important to understand the science of your body, right? And understand what is happening. And that's why I'm a big proponent of teaching what's happening in your system, because sometimes it's happening and you're not understanding. And now that's more grief, because now you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Is this how it's going to feel? I'm going to have these ulcers. I'm going to have and it's like, no, that's why the mind, body, spirit connection is so, so important. So important to really understand your system holistically. And that's something that is really, and I also have a list of like what not to say and what to say instead, because what happens with people that are grieving, like you just talked about, you realize who your friends were, right? And the minute you needed them the most, they weren't there. And what happens in situations that are so, so heavy like this, people don't know what to do, or they say the most stupidest things.
Yes.
Yep. They do.
That's true. They do.
And so then that's something that I like to like have people to understand, because like I don't know how many times the spiritual bypassing that Dr. Burgess was just talking about before, it's like, oh, everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
How does that help anybody?
It, it definitely does not help. We don't want to hear that.
No,
we don't want to hear that.
But
we
this
want to
is what
hear
go
things will
ahead.
get better,
Right. Or this makes no sense, and I'm sorry you're in it. Do you see how that reframes everything? You're trying. So for anyone listening right now and you don't know what to do, because we can't, like, we learn what we learn in the village that raises us. And so it is about finding like what to do to help. Right. And some people are meaning well. I call them the mean wells. Like they mean well. They mean, hey, be strong. Or I know how you feel. And I know one of the parents, I don't like that. Right. No, instead, why don't we say, I can't imagine this pain, but I'm here to listen.
Yeah. Right. That's very good to know.
Yes.
Okay.
And Brittany, what are you doing to deal and cope with your grieving?
Hi. Well, to the parents there, my condolences to you guys. It's very much so very fresh, and I just, would like to say one day at a time, and yeah, one day at a time. For me, 2 years later, I went through all of like what those stages were, or what they identify of the emotions. And, 1 minute being sad, the next minute being angry. And then sometimes I didn't feel anything. I got numb because when I was in that, I did everything. Like the first few months, I didn't start therapy. I probably started therapy the end of that year, and I did MDR. That helped in the sense of helping me to identify when the waves were gonna come.
Yep.
And because before then I felt like everything was sitting on me at one time, my body hurt. I couldn't know how to identify them before they came. So therapy did help. I went for a few months, and it helped me identify. So when I felt them coming, I knew kind of how to not bob and weave, but adjust.
Yes.
So if I felt like, okay, I feel something coming, I don't know what it is, let me go take a walk. But it took me a minute to get there because it hurt to get out the bed. I literally would have to like force myself to get out of bed to use the bathroom because the pain in my body. I felt like my heart was about to bust. I felt like I couldn't think. Sometimes I felt like I couldn't speak. Like someone just had me in just this weird trance of a whole nother world. I didn't know what happened. All I knew was my baby was gone. But what I started doing was one day at a time. So one day I may wake up crying, and then 2 hours later within a day, I may have another emotion. At that time, I did not see it, but even so, yesterday I had a whole meltdown, and I text Brother Adams, and I said, I can't do this. And I was like, I don't want to speak. I hate speaking. I'm having a panic attack because it started bringing back those emotions and those feelings of having to speak on Destiny's story.
Right.
But because I was able to identify it, I sat there, I grabbed a roll of tissue, and this is just what worked for me. I said, you know what? I'm going to cry. Today, I'm not going to do the dishes. It's okay. I'm going to cry. Before then, I was working. I was trying everything to take the pain off. And like Miss Robbins said, even with the therapy, certain things helped me. Like cold showers when I was feeling that anxiousness, like something wrong was going to happen. I hate when people called my phone. I did not like phone calls after a certain time. I felt like if my kids were to go outside, I was going to get a bad report. I was just on edge. And eventually I kind of had to start just figuring out what worked for me, because yeah, you go to therapy and you do all these things, but at the end of the day, no one knows what it's like to lose a child. And don't get me wrong, respectfully, I've lost other family members, but it's something about losing a child that carries a different type of pain and weight that a lot of people mean well, but until the shoe is on the other foot, you will never understand my pain, and I will never wish this not even on my worst enemy.
Right.
So learning to adjust, and it takes a lot because I still don't have any justice for my baby. I did peace walks, I did everything I could, and then sometimes I got tired, and then you know what? I went silent. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to be bothered with people, but that was my way to learn how to adjust because I had to deal with the pain. And also too, I had to learn of who I could talk to and who I could not talk to, because family, friends, everybody, that and I agree with what Miss Erica said. That taught me right there who was for me, and I was so disappointed. I was so back.
Yeah.
I thought I had people that had my back. It
Yeah.
was like I had more support from strangers than I did
Yeah.
those closest to me. And that
Yeah.
broke my heart too, because it was like I didn't understand that. But I didn't have time to, on top of looking out for other children and just making sure my sanity was good. And so I said, you know what? It's okay. All is well. It's just, God doing his thing of removing things. Now,
Amen.
fast forward to 2 years. I love walking. Before I couldn't get out the bed. I love walking. I love sweating and exercising. I love aromatherapy. I love, if I get panic or anxious, I go to the bathroom and I wash my face, because I learned a couple of gold nuggets that I did learn for therapy, and it did help. But eventually, I had to be honest within myself with, Britt, this is not a dream. This is something that really happened to you. So learning of the acceptance, learning of all of this different stuff. And my biggest word that I learned to use was adjust. A lot of people don't understand. They look and say, yeah, you're so strong. But do you know what it's like to get up to go to work every day and see your baby across the street from the graveyard? That is the biggest reminder. Not hearing the ambulance, thinking someone, they could have took her there fast enough. Not hearing gunshots, 4th of July, but every morning I get up, get reminded, going to, can someone, do I pretend that she's not over there just to keep a peace of mind? You know? Um, so everyone
Why
has
are
their
they doing
walks.
that?
Everyone has, their walks and their different things. I've learned, I think, and I'm very proud of myself, I've learned within the last 2 years of how to, just, and I'm not perfect, because my thing of what I would love to go through, and if anyone's listening, for Christmas, I would love to go to a rage room where you can break up stuff and not go to jail. But that for I would love
I've
to go to
suggested
a
that
rage
many
room. I probably
times.
don't need an hour. I'll exhaust myself.
Or
But
throw an
no,
axe.
seriously, like, I'm learning one day at a time. And my biggest thing is, what do you do 2 years later when you don't have no justice? For a while, it took me to come outside. I didn't want to talk to anyone because I felt like, well, do you know? Do you know? Do you know? It took a lot to even just come outside and even be sociable again, because I didn't trust people. I felt like I was a broken record. And sometimes when I catch myself, I'll be like, okay, Britt, you sound like a broken record. And I'll back away from everyone. And it's not because I don't want to be bothered, it's because of my sanity. And I
Right.
need to regroup and gather myself because people
Yes.
won't always understand. And I had to learn that that was okay. So the
Absolutely.
biggest two things right now that I'm facing, because it's 2 years later milestone for myself, is, there's no justice. So how do I keep moving forward without exhausting and beating myself up? And the fact that, like, I got to go across, I look across the street and I see my baby there. And sometimes I do a quick look, or sometimes I just walk on the opposite side of the street because it's like she's really over there. How do you tell a parent that? You go outside the house and the graveyard's right there.
Mm.
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Mm-hmm.
That's hurtful.
Yeah.
That's
It
hurtful.
is.
I wanted to ask a question.
Okay,
So
you go.
I think for the most part, I'm doing well. I'm getting there at my pace. I couldn't allow a therapist, I couldn't allow people, because at the end of the day, everyone else gets to go back home to their children.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else gets to have, those mother-daughter talks. I won't get those conversations. I won't get, Mom, I have a boyfriend. I'm getting married. Hey, you're going to be a grandma. I won't have that experience with my first daughter.
Right.
So it's a lot I have to brace myself for. And as long as I feel like I, do it in a sense, whatever makes me happy, I've gotten to the point where if no one ever says, "Hey, Britt, are you doing okay?" Like, I'm okay with that. It sounds cliche, it sounds sad, but I really had to get tough skin because after 3 months of burying my daughter, the phone calls stop and people go on with their life. And how do you deal with that?
That's true.
How do you deal with that? Because then you sound like a broken record. Oh, well, call me if you need me. That's my favorite line.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
so true.
I didn't mean to go on a rant, but I just
No.
I mean, at least it was healthy.
You said that. That's true.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question to the therapist. Few questions actually. How can I start a conversation with someone who is grieving, and maybe some of the panelists too can help us along the way with that question too also. But I like to ask the therapist that, how can I start a conversation with someone who is grieving?
And then we'll come back to me lastly about me grieving. But go ahead.
Anyone, Diana or?
I think that's a very layered question, because I need to understand, what do you mean by that? Like I said before, there's things that people say, and I want to understand what you're like. How do I start a conversation about grieving? But what's the situation? What's the case?
Will say they're in a better place, and people don't want to hear that.
Okay,
so
right, okay,
that is not something to say, and people will come out and say something like,
yes,
they're in a better place.
Right, and I have a list right now in front of me on purpose, because this is something that people miss, and that's what I was trying to say, is that there's the mean wells. They mean well, they want it, but it's just because of these situations, like she was talking about, like, oh, people don't understand, like there's plenty of people out there that have lost their children, right? And this is why it's very important to be in the group and to understand you're not alone. But if you're trying to have a conversation, like I said, everything happens for a reason. That's the number one thing that I've heard so many times, right? Especially in churches, everything happens for a reason. Right. Yep. So this makes no sense. And I'm so sorry you're in it. Right. Because why are people trying to say these things? Right. Because they're feeling uncomfortable, or they just don't know what to say because they haven't experienced this situation. Be strong. Be strong. I think I heard that numerous times back in the day. Be strong. Well, you don't have to hold it together right now. You don't. You're giving permission to be where they are, because each one of us No matter what, I know I've experienced grief. I've never lost a child, but I've lost my father, my mother, my sister. You see? So grief is different for everybody. That's why I was trying to get people to understand. But the ones with no justice, that anger and that rage, that needs to be, because if not, that will keep you in bed and stuff. So how about the one that people hear a lot? At least they're in a better place.
Yep.
Whoa.
Oi! Right? Why not say it's okay? It's okay to miss them here. It's okay to miss them right now. So these are different things. Like, oh, you got to move on. I've heard people say that. You got to move on. It's been a decade. You got to move on. What?
Oh my
And
God.
that's so disrespectful.
Disrespectful, right?
Very disrespectful.
But there's human beings that will say something like that because they're
Yes.
mean, like that, or they're just, instead, why not just say, hey, take your time. There is no deadline in healing
Right.
on this, right? There
I
isn't.
don't think
I
we'll
always say that. I
I think
always
the
say
one that gets me,
Mhm.
triggers me is when they start the conversation off with, "I know you're still grieving, and I know it hurts."
but
And if you know that, why are you reminding me?
But what would you want to hear though? Christopher, I would love to know what would help you at that moment. What can a
That's what I
person
was
say?
asking too.
What can a person say that would actually give you hope and comfort at that moment?
Just knowing that they're there for me. Just knowing that they offer a shoulder or ear. Just knowing that they're there, not trying to figure out my pain or how
Yeah.
to solve my pain.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a big one. Trying to take somebody's pain away or trying to minimize. I think that's a big one that people need to stay away from. I always just tell people, I don't know what the right thing to say is, but all I can say is talk less and listen more to the person.
Yes.
Like just talk less and
What I
listen
say.
more.
Yeah.
Shut up, show up, and listen.
I tell my brother that all the time.
Yeah, God gave us all two ears and one mouth for a reason. We listen more than we talk. That's I always live by that, And I wanted to share how I dealt with coke too. Before we get before we wrap it up. And for me, I like music. I used to be a DJ in the club. Most people that know that I used to be in the club, and I used to play a lot of R&B and hip hop music back in the day. I don't do that now, but I love music, and I would always go find a place that had a live band that would play some good old school music, R&B, some Luther, and all of that good stuff. And I would go sit there and I would listen to it. That was therapy for me. That helped me with my grieving. I would go fishing by myself. A lot of my family don't even know that I went fishing by myself. I come home and even if I didn't catch anything, it was just being out there fishing by myself. That was therapy for me. But what happens when you're home alone, and you're around people during the day, you're around your coworkers and your family, and you're laughing and you're talking about what happens when you get home. Sometimes I broke down and I cried. I cried my eyes out until I just couldn't cry anymore, Well, again, and when you get home by yourself, that happens, you break down, So I would go back to my R&B music, and I would go back to fishing, and I had to deal with that, and that was hard for me. But I think the thing that hurt me the most, and I wasn't going to say it, but I am, it was some of my family that didn't show up for me when I needed them the most. Some of them that live near me never even came to the funeral.
Mm.
And I think that's what hurt me the most. They weren't there for me. I'm that type of person. I'm always there for my family, and I've been holding it in. I didn't say anything. Some of my family just weren't there for me,
Yeah.
and I think that's what hurt me the most. Made me cry more than anything. I'm like, man, I didn't even see them. They were invisible.
Right.
Never told them that. I still treat them with nothing but love and respect right now today, but that hurt me. They didn't show up for me. Didn't call, didn't come to the wake, didn't come to the funeral, didn't send, not that I needed the money. They didn't send nothing, So I had that was part of my grief as well.
Yeah.
The people that has the same blood as me, they disappeared on me. But through therapy and music and the employee assistance program, I was able to get past it. I have some good days. I have some bad days. I'm like Brittany. Sometimes I want to throw something against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just yell some days, but that's really not me. But I mean, I feel that way sometimes. But that's how you deal with grief. We all grieve in different ways. I've heard different stories, but we all grieve in different ways. And that was one of the ways that I grieve. But more importantly, I love being around my family. That helped me a lot. My mother, my father, my brothers. And what made me smile most of all was just seeing my grandkids. When they come around, it helped me. It reminded me of their mother because they look so much alike her, but she left me a piece of her. All I have to do is look at them and I can see her. So that's how I dealt with my grief. There was some disappointment in that, dealing with grief, but I have broad shoulders and I'm coming along very well. And I love hearing everyone's story here. I really want to thank you all for coming here. I don't know if my brother has anything he'd like to add to it.
But I'm just here listening. I mean, everyone had me here in tears. So, and I consider myself a strong man, but it was hard for me almost not to cry up here. But listening to the stories of Robin, Brittany, Erica, Chris. I mean, me and Chris go back a long way, long time. Stayed in the same house one time for a while. So, I consider Chris friend of my family, and I consider him more than a friend. And I feel like I know Brittany. I feel like I know her just from seeing her at the event at Calandra and Tony Sands, and just hearing her on our broadcast time before. I think about her very often. I tell my brother that. I don't know if he ever say anything, but I think about her. But just knowing Erica and he and Erica talk now, I feel like I know her too. And
you do.
my condolences just go out to each and every one. And Robin not on here, but I just wish justice comes to Chris, Robin, and Brittany. I pray, and I just, for Erica, all of y'all gonna be, and I know people say that, and I'm not. All y'all gonna be in my prayers. I'll leave it like that. I just, like Diana said earlier, I just learned just to say less, because we lost our sister. That's totally different, and through murder. But I just learned to just say less and listen throughout life. And that has been the key for me 59 years on this earth. Just listen and say less. That's all I wanted to say. And I just wanted to thank everyone for coming on here. I love you all. Just listening to everyone.
Dr. Burgess, any final comment?
Just, I'm honored to be here. I think everybody has demonstrated their way of grieving. I think that we have shown that there's no right way to do it. There's no, script on how you do it. You find what works for you in that moment. You acknowledge what you're going through, the trauma, and one day at a time. I think someone kept saying, one day at a time.
Diana S. Rice, any final words?
She's, audio.
My dog was barking. I'm sorry. Okay. What I would like to say is thank you for each one of you to share your story, because I do know as a person that's a podcaster, you're right. Therapy is not for everyone. But this, you being courageous enough and being brave enough to share your story, there's someone out there that might not be able to get out of bed, but now they can because they saw you do it. Okay, there might be someone that didn't even understand what was going on, and now someone shared, now I write all the time, or I go and use the cold water, right? That's something that someone learned. Someone else that might, or just now is happening to them, where somewhere in this country, their child's being shot. And guess what? Your story could give them the understanding that, hey, we could still move forward that one day at a time. So thank you for your courage, all of you. My brothers, Adam brothers, listen, I know between losing your daughter and your sister, look, that was years ago. I went and looked at the storyline. And to me, this is what I want everybody to understand, that grief, it does not fade at all, because love doesn't fade. Okay. And the harder the grief, the deeper the love is, right? And that it is a lot of different emotions, and all of them are okay to have. Just make sure as you process the one day at a time, you get to choose how Dr. Burgess said earlier, your 5 senses, right? On how you utilize them. Because what happens in grief that I've seen a lot is people get so stuck in the complicated grief. They think there's no hope, but there is always hope.
Well, we want to thank you all. Diana S. Rice, you want to say anything before I wrap them up?
I just wanted to say, for me, grief, I dealt with grief. And like I say, I haven't lost a child, lost a sister years ago. But the way I always dealt with grief, just getting out walking, nature. I get up every morning, I walk. I'm on the phone. If I'm not talking to my brother, or girlfriend, or someone, I whole time there, I'm meditating and I'm praying, and that has been a big help for me throughout the years. Just the walks alone, the lone walks. I really don't need no one to walk with. I'd rather walk by myself, and I can think, pray, and meditate more. And I just wanted to add that whoever, when they said that earlier, I think it was Miss Burgess or Dr. Burgess or Miss Rice, Therapist Rice, that is so true. And I just wanted to add that. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks everyone for coming on.
So again, we'd like to thank everyone for coming on today, man. You all have been
Thank you for having me. Nice meeting you guys.
Grief. You're very welcome. We couldn't have had this podcast without everyone here participating. Dr. LaNette Burgess,
sharing their stories.
So very much. Yes, and your input.
Thank you.
Diana S. Rice. Thank you. We love you and your whole family over there.
Y'all had me about to cry on here. I'm telling y'all.
Yeah. And Robin, I believe she had to leave, but and Brittany Buckner, Robin Lilly, Brittany Buckner, Erica Saunders, Christopher Oates Sr. Thank you all for joining us here and sharing your stories. And we hope that some of you get the justice that you so much
Yep.
deserve, Brittany. I know I talk to you all the time, and we text all the time. And Chris, you're right around the corner
Yep.
from us, man. And you already know, man. We're there for you and Queen and
Yep.
Erica. And
We're here for all y'all. Whatever, everyone
you know,
on here,
you wanna come
whatever,
back on here?
whatever you need, we're always open to
Welcome.
you. Anytime, do not hesitate to give us a call.
Yes. So thank you all for participating. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and God bless you all. And keep getting help for your grieving, because grieving never stops. Final quote from Dr. LaNette Burgess: grieving can take a lifetime, but don't let it consume your life. And Diana S. Rice said, it's not a weakness to seek or want help. So thank you for those quotes. I'll never forget.
A lot
those
of great
quotes.
gems dropped on here today.
Wrote those down here, and I'm going to keep them forever. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you. God bless everyone.
God bless you as well. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.